What's going on, people? Just looked at the time; it's 1 o'clock. So today, what we're doing is we're breaking down FAMU and Alabama A&M, and this is a pretty interesting matchup today. You got Alabama and A&M, who's coming off a game where they got basically bludgeoned to death by Jackson State, and then you got FAMU, of course, who comes in basically starting to hit their stride, to be honest with you. And honestly, for today, we're gonna honestly talk about players to watch, what to look for today, what to expect today. Also gonna talk about episode one of Why Not Us today too. But as always, folks, don't go anywhere. Intro's next. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be awesome. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Awesome. So before we get started, a couple scores to look at. Honestly, you got UCF trailing Cincinnati by 2 touchdowns, 14-0 in the second quarter. A lot of these games are in the second quarter. Oklahoma State, Texas, 10-3. Texas has the lead in the second quarter. Michigan State up 7-6 on Indiana. Auburn's up 14-3 on Arkansas, surprisingly. Florida trails LSU by 7-6 in the second quarter. And then also, too, you have a couple games later on today, Alabama State and Jackson State, which is homecoming in Jackson, Kentucky and Georgia, which is homecoming in Athens, Ole Miss and Tennessee, the Eli Payton game, and then you got Tennessee, Oklahoma, and NC State and Boston College tonight, which honestly means something for once finally. But also, too, about a few minutes away from me, to be honest, like honestly, right down the road there, here in Daytona, you got Bethune and Prairie View just kicking off at 1 o'clock, tied up 0-0 for now. You would expect Prairie View to pull away soon. But let's dive into it. So, as far as, and also to make sure to leave a comment down below. We'll get to them. We'll read them. We'll talk. We'll discuss. Drop your score predictions down below as well. To be honest, I would love to hear them. I got my own score prediction. Ask questions. Make this interactive. So, let's do it. So for Alabama A&M, last week, as I called it, a bludgeoning, losing to Jackson State 61-15. Haven't been able to find a groove the last 2 weeks. Or really, honestly, for the majority of the season, they haven't really been what you'd expected them to be in the spring. But honestly, it's like the old adage goes, football's played in the fall, which is the truth. And also, too, Coach Maynor last week wrote a check that his behind could not cash. And I think we all remember what he said and what happened and what was the result of him running his mouth. I don't know if he did that this week, but we'll see. As well, too, offense was held to only 8 yards rushing. Jackson State did, in fact, make them one-dimensional. They took away what Alabama State wanted to do to at least keep them balanced. And I think Jackson State realized, and this is what FAMU's defense I think realizes now too. Akil Glass is the impact player on this offense, but as well too, if they want to create some type of balance and establish a running game to take the pressure off of Akil Glass, that's what they will do. But when Jackson State took that away, Akil Glass became the lone survivor trying to get the ball out to these receivers. He did a decent job of doing it, but you see the results. Not much production. The other thing too is they still managed 301 yards of total offense. 293 of that came through the air. So Akil Glass kind of held his own. Kind of. And you'll see why I say kind of in a few. All the Outlaws except for Hilaire were held to less than 65 yards receiving last week. Jackson State's defense did a great job, and you got to give credit to where credit's due. Game recognizes game. Got to give it credit where it's due. They beat the daylights out of that offense. They were in Akil Glass's face all day. They were in these receivers' faces all day, which is something that this FAMU secondary is going to have to do to Alabama A&M this afternoon. Glass was held to negative 47 yards rushing. I think he fumbled the ball 3 times. So, again, the same old adage, as I said it when FAMU played Alabama State and when they played South Carolina State. If you hit them hard enough, they will let the ball go. You hit Akil Glass hard enough, he will let the ball go. There's some criticisms and questions I still have in his game. They forgot to show up to their homecoming game. Because quite honestly, I peeked in on that game, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the score while I'm watching FAMU and South Carolina State play, and I'm thinking to myself, like, well, gee, did Alabama A&M realize that they had a football game today? Did they forget it was homecoming this week? Did they get caught up in the festivities of homecoming or something? Like, what happened? Because this is not that game last week was supposed to be, if everybody remembers, the SWAC game of the year, the Black College Football game of the year, and everything like that. When actuality, right now at the moment, that game really wasn't. And honestly, the game down in Miami, the Orange Blossom Classic, was really the more so game of the year. The winner of that game, as Willie Simmons and Dion both stated, and it still holds true now, may very well end up playing for a SWAC title if things hold up. By the way, leave your comments and questions in the comment section if you're watching this. Also, to make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. But as far as players to watch today for Alabama A&M, Akil Glass, 26 of 40, 293 yards, 1 touchdown pass, but also negative 47 yards. Running back Gary Quarles, 13 carries, 25 yards. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, how did Gary Quarles have 25 rushing yards, but the team still accumulated only 8 yards rushing? Because that is a total net gain yardage. So when Akil Glass goes backwards for negative 47 yards all night, kind of like Patrick Mahomes did in the Super Bowl against the Bucs, then you see why adding that up along with everybody else's rushing total, it only comes to 8 yards. So that's where that comes from. Wide receiver Odeo Hilaire, who was basically the leader of the pack for the Outlaws last week, 10 receptions, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. And I would expect him to try to make a name for himself again this week. And then here's the funny thing. You have another guy and quite honestly, I know this wide receiving core was very, quote unquote, pissed off when I said Xavier Smith was going to end up being the best wide receiver, or he was the best wide receiver coming into the season in Black College football. And fair enough, everybody's got pride about themselves, as they should. And also breaking news, LSU just took a 13, well, soon to be 14-6 lead over Florida. But I mean, yeah, as they should, quite honestly, and fair enough. But I mean, look, he was held to 2 receptions for 16 yards and 1 TD. And honestly, too, Zabrian Moore has less receiving yards than Xavier Smith does this season. But give or take, that comes with film study. So have at it as you may. Defensive player Trinell, he wasn't even listed on the team's website. Trinell Troutman, 4 solo tackles, 2 assists. In total, he had 6. somebody to watch for. And also linebacker Brendan Bailey, 4 total tackles, 1 solo. Not a good day by that defense. When you give up 61 points on homecoming, that's not a good day by anybody on that defense at all. That was piss. If I'm a defensive coach, that's piss poor. And if I'm a defensive coach, I'm the main one having to answer all the questions about what went into the game plan as far as Alabama A&M is concerned. As far as questions go, how has playing down to their competition finally caught up with them? I would say it has, because look, I know a lot of people are probably gonna say, "Well, hell, you don't really even watch Alabama A&M play." Well, gee, we have, because they've been on the national stage with their due diligence, and they've been talked about enough to where people are going to watch them. They played down to South Carolina State. Watch that one on Facebook Live on their athletics page. Played down to Bethune-Cookman. Don't want to admit it, but they did. And give or take, the Florida climate played a little bit of a factor too, but it is what it is. They played down to Grambling and they lost. That was the first sign. They played, and they didn't even show up for Jackson State. So has Alabama A&M been playing down to their competition? You bet your behind they have. They really have. Yes. And I don't know who would think differently, but it's the truth. They've been playing down to their competition. As well too, with that and with the embarrassment last week comes the ultimate question: how motivated will they be to bounce back this week? How pissed off is Alabama A&M finally gotten? Is Akil Glass due for a big day? And I would say, honestly, they're going to don't expect it now, unless something's really, really wrong. Don't expect a team like this to just come into this game and just flat out lay down or anything like that, which that would be the ultimate surprise to me. That would signify a lot of trouble going on in Paradise in Huntsville, Alabama. But I'm expecting Alabama A&M to come into this game and fight. I am, because anybody with a sense of pride, you get embarrassed like that the week before on homecoming, you want to come back out the next week and you want to try to right the wrongs and show that you do have pride about yourself and ensure that something like that will never happen again. That's what you want to do. So today for them, for Alabama A&M, is an opportunity to come out and right the wrong. Now, how much are they reeling from that? What has been the trend all week in Huntsville? I'm not sure. But you want to bounce back from something like that. If you don't, that's very dangerous. Right now, they're not sitting in good position. They basically have been eliminated from possibly the SWAC championship. Today kind of puts the final nail in the coffin for them. And then the other question is, how important is it for this Alabama A&M offense to be balanced? Look, I don't care how much of a pro prospect Akil Glass is. You cannot throw the ball 60 times or 40, 50 times. As much as we want to say that it is more related, this conference is more sort of like the Big 12 in a sense with the offenses. It is. But at the same time, too, you see it in the NFL. Quarterbacks at most times, often than not, unless it's a high-scoring affair, and in which case the teams that get the breaks in the end and make the final plays wins, you don't want your quarterback throwing the ball 50-plus times, 40, 50 times a game. You really don't. It's not a good sign because that means you're playing from behind. And honestly, too, I say keep them balanced, but when you get down like that, it was like 55-15 at one point. You have to start chucking it. You have to. You can't really run it much anymore. But that's why it's important also, too, that they establish that run early. If they can establish a run early, then there's a chance that they can become more balanced and they can work themselves into a flow. And I think, honestly, the challenge is going to present itself again today with FAMU's defense, who's only given up really 5.25 points per game outside of the USF game. With the USF game, it's like 11.2 points per game. Like, you're going to be presented with another challenge again. Running the ball is not going to be easy today. Again, you're going against probably one of the best defenses in the FCS, and your offense is kind of sputtering. And truth be told, like I said on the Running Gun podcast Wednesday night, I'm going to say it again today. I'm not that impressed with what I've seen from the Outlaws, their wide receiving core recently. I'm really not. Because as much as they talked and said what they said, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Y'all should be going off, dominating every week. 61-15 shouldn't have happened if they were really that nice. Just saying. But also too, well, I guess I kind of answered that question. What is an area of improvement for Akil Glass? Quite honestly, I said it preseason. I said in the preseason breakdown. He's good throwing intermediate and short passes, but when it comes to his deep ball, I think no. Let me refocus. I think his intermediate and short passes can get better. His deep ball is nice. His deep ball is perfect. His intermediate and short passes, those need to improve. I really do. Because honestly, look, you can't throw a deep ball in the NFL 100% of the time. Just can't. Everybody's the same. So we'll see what happens today. We will see what happens. Why is it critical they take away the rushing attack? If they can take away FAMU's rushing attack, then you force Rashawn McKay to throw it, which honestly I do want to see today. I kind of want to see Rashawn McKay air it out a little bit more and see if he can connect. But besides the point, if you can take away FAMU's rushing attack, which I'm not sure of because it's a pretty decent rushing attack. Finally had 100 yards rushing last week. So, but if they can, that's an opportunity for them to take the lead. But then it turns to their secondary and their front seven getting pressure on Rashawn McKay and rattling him. How well can they do that? Is their defense physical enough to run with FAMU's offense? We're going to find out. And that comes from shutting down the run. Because honestly, you look at last week, FAMU was bigger than South Carolina State up front. In the trenches, FAMU was physically stronger, visually bigger than South Carolina State. As much as people want to say, South Carolina State's been that ground and pound type of team. Remember, FAMU had been in the weight room for 2 years, hadn't played a game. Then they came out and you saw what they did to South Carolina State. And then you turn around and you think about what Alabama A&M did against South Carolina State, and you're like, oh, Jesus. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting today. Has the SWAC figured out Akil Glass? Honestly, slowly, but this is what happens with film. When you have film on a guy, it becomes more and more prevalent and easier to study a guy, figure a guy out. It's, in a sense, I would say they're kind of slowly starting to figure out Akil Glass. But at the same time, too, it's up to him in his game and in that coaching staff to allow him to take his game to the next level and evolve with the playbook and show different things as the season progresses. Because this is a tough 3-game stretch that Alabama A&M's in right now. Really tough 4-game stretch if you count the fact that they played Grambling. And now they played Jackson State. Now they're playing FAMU. Then they get Magic City Classic next week. So that's a very, very tough 4-game stretch. That's a tough task. Now, they've already lost two games in this 4-game stretch. You can't let it get to 3 if you're Alabama A&M. If you let it get to 3, that Magic City Classic turns into a toss-up. So we'll see. Why should Coach Maynard keep his mouth shut from now on? Honestly, look, it's never good to get, and this is coaching 101. This is just real life 101. Don't give someone ammunition. Why would I talk trash about someone knowing I got to go see? I'm going to have to see them again, and they're going to probably get better. Why would I do that? That was not smart. It really was not. And then you did it on a Zoom meeting with all these other coaches listening and watching. Well, and it wasn't just for jokes and giggles. I can't say the other thing. I'm not going to say the other thing. Ish and giggles. I'm not. It wasn't just for that. You like, and then you told him go get more 5 stars, and then you'll beat up on it. I don't get why. I understand there's a lot of trash talking and swag, but you got to draw the line at some point. You draw the line at some point. And I don't. And then people had the audacity to think that that game was really going to be that close. You saw the blowout coming, and you might have another one today. But with that, now we shift over to FAMU. So with FAMU, first home win over South Carolina State last week since 1998. Rashawn McKay still has yet to throw an interception, knock on wood. Isaiah Land is halfway to the FAMU single season sack record, and honestly, a little over halfway to Terrell Suggs' sack record of 24. So, and is it possible with 6 games left? It sure is. They haven't played Alabama A&M since 1979. They lost that game, unfortunately. FAMU did lose that one, but the year before, in 1978, they beat Alabama A&M 42-0 on their way to the first national championship. They dominated South Carolina State at the point of attack, and honestly, you could just, like I said earlier, you could tell FAMU was bigger, stronger, faster, more aggressive, wanted it more. Visually they just were bigger than South Carolina State, which traditionally you don't see. Buddy Pugh hadn't lost a game in Tallahassee up until that point last week. They held South Carolina State to less than 60 yards rushing. They held an offense in South Carolina State that passed for 314 yards the previous week to just 80 yards passing, to less than 80 yards passing. The FAMU defense has 15 straight games with a turnover. Likely they'll probably get 16 today. David Manigo stepped up as wide receiver number 1, which honestly you love to see that, because and hopefully Xavier Smith is able to go today. Hopefully Chad Hunter is able to finally go today after seeing Chad Hunter for the first 3 games. Hopefully all those guys are able to play today. You love to see it. You love to see guys being able to step into wide receiver 1 spots and so on and so forth and show their versatility. You love to see guys like Chris Sanders and company step up behind him when Xavier Smith went down and not really drop off and miss a beat. And that's what you love to see out of this wide receiving core. And that's going to be helpful in the long run, because then you see now, okay, well, who can we rely on? It's week 6, week 7. It's like, okay, like who can we rely on? Who can do what, who presents what type of mismatch, things like that, who does the little things right. And that was a huge step, seeing Manigo do that. A lot of people think, oh, well, he just stepped in for an injury. But yeah, but that was in a critical moment. And the offense didn't miss a beat. Rashawn McKay still looked like he was gaining his confidence. And week by week, he still is gaining his confidence. And I think, honestly, I know I said, and even Coach Simmons said on the coaches show that appears on Facebook, he said, and I'm not going to exactly quote, but Rashawn McKay is a game manager. He needs to just manage the game. But my thing is, look, with every passing week, the more he doesn't throw interceptions and the more he takes care of the ball and the more FAMU wins and the more the touchdowns come and the more he starts to connect, especially with Kamara Young, who is becoming a very reliable tight end, by the way. Look, how long until you just let Rashawn McKay cut it loose and just start blasting people with his arm? How long? Because it's going to start clicking very soon. If not this year, if not now, it will by the end of the year, when you really want to start hitting. Because then you could probably still get in that large bid in the playoffs. And if not then heck, that's a lot of momentum building going into 2022. So that's just something to keep an eye on. 3 different FAMU players had INTs last week, part of that 15-game stretch with a turnover. You're likely going to see 16 today. Uh, they need to improve the third down efficiency. The third down efficiency was not good at all. That needs to get better. And also, too, 11 penalties for 94 yards. You got to stay more disciplined. You really have to. And I see people on social media saying, this is a game Coach Simmons was not pleased with, even though he won, or even though they won. And honestly, I can't agree because I felt like there were some points out there that were left on the field, like the punt return. What's that? 37. You had a drive where, and honestly, I think the officials kind of screwed it up. But you had a drive where I think they did get the first down, and the officials came back. Oh, that's why. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Darn. My bad. Sorry, folks. Got sidetracked. Technical difficulties. But yeah. I mean, honestly, the punt return, and then there's a play where the referees, I think, kind of screwed it up because FAMU was driving on the goal line to make it, and that would have been what 40. That would have put 40 points on the board in total, and they rolled it turnover on downs. And then you had a missed kick. So I mean, there are points out there that they did leave out there on the field. Partly due to the officials, partly due to these 11 penalties for 94 yards. And that's where you got to get better. And I think it will get better today. Coach Simmons, I'm sure, in practice, and we'll probably see it eventually. And why not us? Has likely challenged this team to bouncing back and playing discipline. Make a play, don't say nothing, go back to the huddle. And honestly, that's the old Patriot way of doing things too. So I mean, just slowly, methodically whoop the daylights out of them. And speaking of whooping the daylights out of them, that brings me to players to watch. Rashawn McKay, 14 20, 24, 181 yards, 1 TD. He's very close to a 200-yard game. If you notice, his numbers are slowly progressing week to week. Bishop Bonnet finally had a 100-yard rushing in the rushing attack. Toe Gang, 12 carries, 118 yards, 1 TD. David Manigos, 7 receptions, 82 yards, close to a 100-yard game. He's slowly but surely progressing, getting better. Tight end Kamara Young, who's becoming a very reliable safety valve for Rashawn McKay. You love the chemistry. I guess it's like Godby connection. 1 reception, 34 yards, 1 TD. Defensive secondary as a whole is something you want to watch today, going against this Outlaws wide receiving core too. So I'm interested to see what happens there. And then also too, the sack master Isaiah Land, who's got 10 sacks on the season. He's a player to watch, a huge impact player. And honestly, too, you see, now that you start seeing the success Isaiah Land is having, you're going to start seeing teams adjust to what he does. And J Peeps, what do you mean by that? Well, here's what I mean. When you have a guy like that constantly making an impact, constantly disturbing stuff in the backfield, what are teams going to do? They're going to leave a running back in the backfield to allow for you to chip a running back. They could chip the running back off of you. They could put an extra tackle, go tackle over on that side of the field, put a tight end over there, stop you. Probably bring in, although it is a dying breed in college football, even in the NFL too, unfortunately. They could bring in a fullback and have him come in and come get you too. So with that, teams are going to adjust. But at the same time, Isaiah Land needs to be able to, he has to be able to evolve his game as well. And then that comes with, as the season progresses, and also to film study, and even as well being able to adapt and see things. So with that, brings us now to the questions. So is this offense due for a breakout performance? What did they see in the Jackson State film? Honestly, I'm looking at the Jackson State film, and then I'm taking whatever Jackson State did, and I'm applying that and more. And I'm using that into my playbook, partially. Or I'm looking for extra things that what else was there? What else was there that we can use? What else was there that we can use to expose them and keep going? That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, the offense, it is due for a breakout performance. And if you've noticed, Rashawn McKay's numbers have gradually improved week by week by week. So yeah, it is there. It is there. Also, too, breaking news: Christian McCaffrey's been placed on IR. Don't know if y'all have seen it yet, but yes, Christian McCaffrey's headed to IR again. So adjust your fantasy lineups, and feel sorry for the folks, for the Carolina Panthers fans watching this too. When will we see Jeremiah Pruitt break out? They've tried to work him in, honestly, but I feel like they can do more to work him in. So in due time, I think you will see Jeremiah Pruitt get worked into this offense, and I think it will start to take off and click. Who knows? It might be today. I'm also betting on Jamar Shareed getting a punt return today. He got one stolen from him last week, so I think he gets one today. And then also too, why must they fix the discipline issues? You need to really fix those discipline issues because you can't let that happen when you get into a close game, and then when you get to that close game, you commit dumb penalties like that. You have to be able to stay level-headed, go back to the huddle, next play mentality. Don't let that bother you. That is what that is. Don't let it get to you. Just say, hey, you know what? Next play. If anybody saw the I believe it was the Thursday night game. No, it was Monday night. Monday night with the Ravens and the Colts. That almost ended up costing the Ravens. So a situation like that where it could end up costing the team, you have to be smart and mellow-headed or level-headed and just move on. So discipline is a huge factor today as well. If they can stay disciplined, which I believe they will, after a full week of practice and game and film study and looking back at it, I think it will get better. Will Isaiah Land get closer to the FAMU sack record today? Yes, I do think he will. I'm not sure how many sacks he gets because, again, film study's a heck of a thing. People are going to, and I'm sure Coach Maynard's staff has talked about, honestly, leaving a running back or a tackle over or a tight end in to chip Isaiah Land and slow him down and buy Akil Glass an extra couple seconds. So I do think that is something to keep an eye on. What did we learn from episode 1 of the docu-series Why Not Us? Quite honestly, what I took away from Why Not Us was I was very interested in the fact that, you see togetherness with this team. You saw when you saw the not benediction, but the devotions, that's something you don't see. And I was talking to someone about it. And when you look at that, that's something that you're like, my gosh. And when I said it on the Running On podcast, you look at this and you're like, some of these guys have lives outside of football that you would never even realize. Like that type of stuff hits home, man. And quite honestly, you love to see it, that everyone's there for each other and they could talk to each other and stuff. And that is the look behind the curtain that I think the whole country needed to see. Because it shows that, college athletes, these guys are human. Sometimes these guys need someone to just, sit down and talk to. Sometimes it's good to talk about the future with someone else that you're not related to be honest. Heck, I do it over here. It's always good to do it. It's like sometimes, like, I understand some people they keep to themselves sometimes and stuff like that, but it's a part of the whole getting to know you, building that brotherhood bond in a locker room. That's what that is, and that's what you saw. And now you see all these guys, they got the same goal for themselves, and those you love to see those types of things. Like I mean, look, you watch Hard Knocks, you don't see that type of stuff. You watch a couple of seasons ago, I believe it was 2016. You watch a season with Florida State. You didn't see the type of stuff with Florida State. You didn't. So, I mean, what FAMU does, it is a little bit different, but that attributes to being an HBCU. HBCUs are different. They're built different. A lot of those guys, they do come from different walks of life, and that's the beauty of a football locker room. So I'm definitely looking forward to episode 2. I loved episode 1, and I'm looking forward to the whole entire series. I think it's going to be good, and honestly, heck, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that, devotions and team talks and stuff like that. You don't see that in every locker room. You really don't. So with that, keys to victory today for FAMU. Make Alabama A&M one-dimensional. Force Akil Glass to have to do it with his arm and not with his legs. Take away the rushing attack, because honestly, they're not going to be able to run on one of the best defenses in the FCS. So you force them to be strictly a passing team. Leave it up to your secondary. I think the secondary matches up well with the Outlaws. The second thing, establish the run. If you can establish the run against this team, I think you have a chance to win. Alabama A&M's defense is not just head over heels amazing. They're not. They're really not. Look at the amount of points they've given up. Stay disciplined as well. If you can stay disciplined, don't end up being the second guy. Be smart when you tackle, because these referees nowadays are always looking for targeting calls. If you can do that, you'll be fine. So those are my 3 keys to victory. Make Alabama A&M one-dimensional. Establish a run. Stay disciplined. You do those things, I think you win. So my final score prediction for today is FAMU 39, Alabama A&M 10. So I do think FAMU moves on with another added win in the win column and building momentum as they travel to Ida Bena for the next week. And with that, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to sit down and enjoy these next 20 minutes before the game starts. I'm going to relax, have a nice adult beverage, honestly, because it is a Saturday and it is 1 o'clock, so it's not the morning anymore. But as always, too, if you are in Huntsville, stay safe. Or if you are in Tallahassee, stay safe. If you're headed to if you are at that Bethune-Cookman game and you're watching, stay safe. And as always, follow us on all of our social media platforms. Enjoy these games. And as always, I'll see you after the game. We'll talk about it. We'll break it down, talk about what we saw, what went right, what went wrong. Hopefully talking about a FAMU win again and FAMU moving to 4-2. So, yeah, y'all take care. Y'all stay blessed.